Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week. Now, you may be watching it when it first goes out, or you may be watching it in years to come, and that's why at certain times I will emphasize when this is recorded, which is the 24th of January 2020. That's only relevant to prices, dates, or things like that. Yes, it is me, Alex William Smith, better known to many of you as Jonathan Royal, the British bad boy of hypnosis. And hopefully by now, you realise it's because it did earn me money, but it's wearing thin. I'd like people to get to know the real me. But anyway, enough about me. I am incredibly proud and privileged, particularly this week, to have a guest who, well, I've got to be careful how I choose my words, because if I don't say this right, it could sound offensive, and it's only meant with the best positivity. But she's been around forever in terms of the internet, okay? Now think about that, the internet's not been here forever, so I'm not saying she's old, because she isn't, right? Okay, before people start sending me messages going, oh, well, you're very offensive. But the fact is, the internet started in 94, 95 time. And as you'll know from a previous interview or future interview, depending when it goes out, James Zellis was like the first male hypnotist to have a website. Well, this lady was the first female that Web Archive shows as having a website. Very astute business lady, therefore, and she is on many levels. She's also been very controversial. She's done hypnotherapy for areas that other people wouldn't even touch. She's done stage hypnosis. She's done everything, basically. So it is a massive pleasure to welcome to the show who I would dub to be the first lady of hypnosis, Wendi Friesen. Welcome to the show, Wendi.
Well, thank you, Alex. And you know, I did not know that I was the first female hypnosis website, but it makes sense because back then in 1994, it was really hard to make a website. I think we still had AOL discs that were being mailed to your house and stuff. Mm-hmm. So my 12-year-old nephew learned to code, and he could make a web page. And it was really interesting because, you know, a 12-year-old kid making me a web page, I thought, oh, well, you know, it's better than nothing. And he learned how to make animated GIFs or GIFs. Yeah. So on the left side of the web page, there were tiny little squares. I mean, they were maybe a ½ inch or an inch, depending on your resolution. And he made them animated. So there was a cigarette that had a little puff of smoke coming out of it. And there was a little fat person that got skinnier. And there was a profile of a boob that got bigger, right? So there were 4 or 5 of these, and just some text information. So that website got so much traffic because of that boob. People came there to see a little animated boob get bigger.
Okay.
And you know, I know you said some things I do are controversial. Well, the breast enlargement, the purpose of that boob was to sell the breast enlargement program. Yeah. And people think that's a little weird, but it's been studied at several universities, and they've done long-term, like 3-month studies and shown that it increases your breast size.
Yeah.
Well, somehow that one-page website got the attention of a talk show in New York. And at this time, I had never been on TV. I had never spoken on stage. Nothing. And the Queen Latifah show called me and wanted me to come out and join their show that's about breasts. So I said, well, yeah, sure, I'll do that. So I thought, she'll be sitting at a desk. I'll be in the chair next to her, and she'll ask me some questions, and I'll answer them, because I can do that. And for the audience listening, this is really a lesson in being brave and taking a chance. And even if you're scared, do it anyway, because you're not going to get better if you don't face some of those fearful situations. So I fly out there, get off the plane, and there's a man with a sign with my name on it who is going to put me in the limo, take me to a beautiful suite overlooking Central Park, picks me up the next day. And this show is filmed as if it's live, with a 400-person studio audience, and they asked me to pick 4 volunteers from the audience when they were in the holding area. And I said, oh, what do you want me to do to them? And they said, oh, just use them on the stage. And I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I did a suggestibility test with people raising their arm in the air and then having it rigid. And then the ones that could pull it down, of course, they're not going to be picked. And I picked 4 of them because I didn't know stage hypnosis at all.
Oh, right. Oh, shit. Right, I've just realised what you're saying. So they had a vision in mind that you're going to do something visual on TV, which you've not been warned about. Suddenly you're confronted with this.
Yeah, I thought we'd have a little briefing first. But then, so they had me pick these people. Now I'm backstage, and I know the show's getting ready to start. And again, there's 400 people in the studio audience. For a talk show, that's unheard of. And the one producer's putting my mic on and fiddling with the wires. And I said, well, what is exactly I'm supposed to talk about? What are we doing? She says, oh, you've been on TV hundreds of times. I had never been on TV. And then the next person, before I went out, I said, well, what is it that I'm supposed to talk about exactly? She says, oh, you know what to do. So, Alex, I go out there on the stage. There's no chair and desk. There's 4 chairs. Queen Latifah is in the audience in the very top row. I am on the stage by myself. The cameramen are doing things like this with their fingers, and I'm thinking something's going to happen right now. And I had a choice of maybe crying or fainting or running away. When I talk about it, I still feel it, just in my body. So I put my hands like this, like kind of cupped, and I held them out in front of me. I closed my eyes, and I said to myself, the audience is in the palms of your hands. They will love every word you say. You're an expert at this. So, and then boom, show started. She did a quick introduction from up there, and she held up my book, said, ooh, hypnotize your lover. And she's going, this is juicy. And then I had to start the show. I had no preparation because I didn't think I was going to have to have all the content. I was going to answer questions. So that little 5-second hypnosis I did right then, when you're in a state of fear, you're very suggestible, right? Well, it worked. I started talking about hypnosis. I talked about the research of breasts and hypnosis, and it was really fascinating because people don't know about that. And then I brought my 4 participants up on the stage, having no idea what I would do. And I've never done stage hypnosis. I've watched videos at that point.
Okay, well, you have done since, surely.
Huh?
Have you done since?
Since? Oh, yeah, I've done plenty since, yeah. I was
going to say, cause I've seen videos where you look as accomplished as anyone, full stop.
Yeah, it's at that point, I had never done that.
Right.
So I had there was 4 women, and I had them, relaxing, and I'd pull on their arms, and I'd touch their shoulders and things like that. But still, I thought, this is about breasts. I'm going to make them think their breasts are growing. And it was very funny and entertaining. And one of the women she was black, and she had enormous breasts. I mean, they were really huge. And so I'm touching her shoulder and saying, we didn't want them to get bigger, but I said, your breasts are going to be talking to you when I count to 3 and you open your eyes. And they're going to be saying things. And the thing I didn't say that I wanted to, but I just stopped myself is, and I bet they have some stories to tell. But I stopped myself. And I said, they're going to talk to you and tell you some interesting things. And she did great. And, so she opens her eyes and but it was a total success. They kept me up there for a half an hour. The show's an hour long. They kept me up there by myself for half an hour. Yeah. Oh. So anyway, the courage part. For you, all of you who are listening, what I did in that 10 seconds, that 5 seconds or whatever, that made me have the courage to not, cry or run away, is because I practiced hypnosis, not extensively at that point, but I had enough insight to think, okay, you don't want to start firing off the parts of your brain that are fear and worry, and I'm going to look stupid, and I'm going to screw this up. You got to power up the parts of your brain that are like, okay, I got this. I can do this. Even if you don't know how, And so it's just such a cool thing. And then the stage hypnosis started because a man named Lynn in Sacramento, who had been a hypnotist forever, he did grad night shows for high schools. And he got sick and he said, Wendi, I have 3 shows this weekend. Can you do them for me? And it was like Thursday already. So that's how I learned stage hypnosis. Oh my God. Oh.
So you
One of them was at 2 in the morning.
So you literally went and did it.
I did.
Yeah.
But one of them was at 2 in the morning. And then it was outside because it was Sacramento, it was warm, and it started raining. We had a covering, but the rain started just coming down like crazy. But yeah, they were all successful.
I've got to ask you, based on what you've just said, a couple of things come to mind. One of them is one of them is what era? When was the Queen Latisha show? What year was that?
It was probably about probably about 1996. I've been doing this for maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, that's excellent. Because just on a side note, certain British stage hypnotists who claim that they came up with the idea of body parts talking to each other, watch and learn. It's done before. From the other point of view, I know you had a lot of controversy with the increasing breast size, and pure logic for viewers, for some people who are watching this who've gone through the clinical hypnotherapy route where they're told that's rubbish, it can't happen. My perspective on that is that maybe the ladies that you treat don't get an increase in breast size, but if they get more confidence and remove all their inhibitions and stuff, that they look at themselves differently and appreciate more what they already have, which is still a great outcome. Or that why shouldn't it work? Because when women have their period, hormones release and naturally breast size can increase. When women are pregnant and hormones change, breast size can increase. And people like Dr. Bruce Lipton have proven that mind can control cellular. So if that can happen naturally in nature, surely it's possible our mind, if we believe mind controls body, can make it happen.
Yeah.
But to finish up on that, what about the Penn and Teller bullshit?
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. I decided that I could do a fantastic job on that show of getting really solid, amazing hypnosis stuff. So I had a doctor's office next to my office, and I had a dentist's office on the other side. At the doctor's office, I had 2 participants who the doctor stuck a needle through the skin on their hands, and they were like, ah. And then I hypnotized them and had their other hand be numb. Yeah. And the doctor's putting the needle through that side, and they're not flinching. There's nothing. They're just watching it going, what? And the doctor says, you don't feel that? And no. And the doctor he says, this can't be. That was a good bit. Yes. And didn't use it. Then we go to the dentist's office.
That's telling people at home, let me just say, if anyone knows how television can be edited to make you look bad, trust me, it's me. That's why I'm apparently the British bad boy of hypnosis. And they cut things out, they do. So if you ever look on YouTube and look at the Penn and Teller bullshit thing, know this much. There's a reason why Wendy's been in this business so long and has such a wonderful reputation. Is because what she does with pure intent is because she gets results for clients. But watch that program and they portray things very differently.
Oh, it was. Yeah. So the next part, I know that all of you listening will find this very fascinating, and I do want to spread the truth about what happened.
Please do.
In the dentist's office, I have a man who has a really bad dental phobia, and he can't even go sit in the chair hardly. So he's in the chair. We have a blood pressure cuff on that has a digital monitor. It's showing his blood pressure, and the cameras would show the blood pressure. So we saw it before, and then I'm spinning the drill above him. With his eyes are closed, but I'm spinning the dentist drill, and it's going wee, wee, wee. Yeah. And then we look at the blood pressure, and it's just going crazy. His blood pressure is skyrocketing. So then I have him close his eyes. I did maybe 6 or 7 minutes of a trance for him to get rid of his dental phobia. And it worked. The blood pressure thing, this is good stuff for TV. The blood pressure, I'm spinning that drill, wee, wee, wee. His blood pressure is staying low and relaxed, and his body's relaxed. And then they interviewed him, and he said, that is incredible. I don't know how that could have happened. Then there's another woman that I had come over, and she's 20 years old, and they interviewed her and did not use that either. She faints every time she goes to the doctor. All of her life, she faints at the doctor just as soon as she sees the doctor. All her life. So she's tried everything except hypnosis, and we did a regression to cause, and she went back to her birth, which was a very difficult birth, and there were a lot of different people that were rushed into the room, and then she was taken out by herself and lots of fear and everything. She described the people in the room at her birth, and then she later talked to her mother and said, these are the people that I saw during the birth. And the mom said, no way you could have known that. And she did. It was correct information, but she never fainted again. So her fainting was gone. This was a great piece for them to put on the TV.
But didn't fit their agenda.
Yeah. So then they took pieces of my conversation that applied to a certain thing, like the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real and imagined event, and they put that somewhere else to try to make me look like I didn't know what I was talking about. And then the kind of touchy part, like I thought, I know people know about this penis enlargement thing, but I'm going to tell them how this started because it's kind of a cute story and they like things that are kind of, edgy like that. So I'm in this one room and the cameraman used some kind of a fisheye lens to make me look really weird, I guess. We saw later. But I said, this is a really weird story. This man named James asked me if he could enlarge his penis. And while it seems strange, I told him no, I can't imagine that could happen. He had me make him a cassette tape at the time, and he listened to it for a month. His wife was gone on a trip during that month, and when she got home and they were going to have sex, there was a dramatic difference in the size of his penis, and he knew it too. He said, it's even bigger flaccid. And he said, it was a little tough to actually, get the entry going. And then he kept doing the tape, and it even kept getting bigger. A year later, he got in contact with me and says, the size has stayed. It's never gone down. But what a great thing for men who are insecure about size and just want to have a little more potential. So, of course, they made me look really ridiculous, even though I was talking about it in the way I just did to you. Because their job is making you look ridiculous. And my office, I had like 14 staff members at that time. And we got so many horrible hate mails and hate calls. And like if I walked in the grocery store and I saw one of my neighbors, they would turn away and people wouldn't talk to me in my neighborhood anymore. And then at school, my two kids at school. Oh, yeah. And I did a good job. I did such a good job.
The media can be nasty, and I know that from first-hand experience. But there is people who are not on the cutting edge as you being. May not realise that, as observers, they might go, well, it's your own fault. You shouldn't have agreed to take part. But they don't realise that we get promised certain things. And there's a whole team of people misguiding us. And so.
Yeah. But here's one more thing they did.
You make more sales.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So even bad publicity, but I don't think it was that bad. It was wrong and they distorted it. But having watched it, I still think it came across as anyone who knew Penn and Teller. No offense to them, because I think they're great performers, but they were just following the script that they were given. I still think they were a bit tongue-in-cheek. And anyone with a functioning brain cell might go, this might not be the entire full story.
Yeah. Well, the extra thing that happened was, we didn't talk about diseases or illnesses or medical things, other than we did the bit in the doctor's office and had a couple clients in there. Couple weeks after shooting, the producer calls and she said, I want your CD that is for curing cancer. And I said, I do not have a CD for curing cancer. I do not cure cancer, and I don't claim I can.
Thank God for that. Right, yeah.
So there's one CD I have that's called Disc of Light, and it's imagining this glowing disc that has the ability to remove harmful cells or viruses or bacteria from your body and correct whatever conditions, and any cancerous cells are swept out of your body along, and then, so that's as little as I had.
For the viewers at home, let me butt in right now and say, from previous editions, because I interviewed Gary Cole's Hypno-Oncology. I'm saying previous editions, but actually it's going to be after this because Wendy's is going to go out before Gary's. But my belief is that we can, through the mind, possibly cure things like that, but we're not allowed to legally, because of the Cancer Act or other things, ever state that anyway.
Yeah, and so I would not make claims about that, and I don't have a program that says it's going to cure cancer, and I don't tell, even though I work with cancer patients a lot. So all they had was me saying that one little thing that said, and it was in context, it was with harmful bacteria or viruses or anything that is not supposed to be there, and cancerous cells that are swept from your body. And even though there's evidence that we can do that, they took that one little piece and said, she says she can cure cancer. She is the bottom of the barrel because she's making money from dying people, telling them that she can cure their cancer from one little word on that CD. And that to me was just evil. That was vicious.
Is a prime example of gutter journalism.
Yeah, and I didn't send them the CD, by the way, that they asked me. And since I didn't send it, they bought it from me. We didn't know they were buying it, but someone bought it so they could do that to me. And why? Why do they want to do that to me? I gave them great content and whatever. So anyway, we could move on from that.
Yeah, we're going to move on. Don't worry, this is going to steer towards more recent and more positivity. But for viewers who may, any viewer who watches this who's not encountered Wendi before, clearly has only just got into the industry very recently. And I don't mean that offensively to you if you fall in that category. It's just that it's the nature of the event. Wendi speaks at conferences around the world, hundreds of different audio programs, training, all manner of stuff going on everywhere. She's everywhere. So, but one thing I do want to ask you, and this is more partly for the viewers, but more for my own curiosity. I have never been more entertained than watching your daily video blogs when they happened about anal muck pen. Sorry, that's an anagram. Paul McKenna.
Oh, God.
But if you check it, it's an anagram. Anal muck pen is an anagram of Paul McKenna. No offense, Paul, but it is. I can't help it. It genuinely is an anagram. Your daily video blogs, including on your motorbike and all this, that, the other, because he had a hissy fit. And if you want to try and sue me, Paul, please do, but it's my opinion. You can't sue me over opinion. A hissy fit because you had the business Nelson intelligence to own the domain name I Can Make You Thin, and he decides to publish a book called that. And rather than perhaps negotiating with you a realistic market value price to purchase it, if he really wanted it, he threatened you with legal action and all manner of stuff.
He did sue me. He sued me. They went to court.
Yeah, he did in the end, did he?
He did. And I had, on the phone, I had offered to whoever was the representative for him, I said, well, how about $1,000? How's that?
What's the buy?
They could have bought it for $1,000. And instead he sued me because that's where he made all his money, was suing people in Britain, And he sued me for, what was it for? It was like, I don't know, it was $80,000 or something he was suing me for, and they just threw it out. But it was fun. The first challenge I gave him when I privately emailed him, I said, hey, we could really do something with this to get some attention and just have some fun with it. And we'll have a little contest for the viewers can vote or something that, let's make something fun out of it. And he didn't get back to me, of course. So that's when I did the baking the cookies. And I said, you can only use 3 ingredients, and whoever bakes the best cookies. And the ingredient was a rock and a whole avocado in a bowl and I don't know, a pencil or something. So I go and whip it up and I bring out this beautiful tray of perfect chocolate chip cookies. Said, okay, Paul, it's your turn. And then the motorcycle challenge to race on my motorcycle. That motorcycle scared me a lot. I didn't have it very long. But there was a third challenge. I don't remember what it was. But what a little, I won't swear, but oh my gosh.
They were so into, and yet the ridiculous, I didn't know that bit of information you just said, but for $1,000, he could have owned the domain name without any legal action.
We're done. Yep. Done.
You know, and this is my opinion, please don't say anything that would drop you in it. I don't want to drop you in it, but I suddenly feel that as documented evidence shows that you had internet presence before pretty much anyone, and in America that would give you more presence, and go, one might wonder if from a cost risk ratio point of view somebody said it's worth spending the money on legal action just for the potential
if you win. Right.
Well, not whether you win or not, but just for the attraction it might bring to your name as here in Britain from the followers of the person in America.
Yeah.
Type scenario. I don't know. It never made sense. All I know is it was incredibly entertaining, your videos. Hats off to you. Incredibly entertaining. So let's change the subject. Shortly after those videos, or maybe before, because I followed you for years, not in a strange stalkery way.
Oh,
But I have, as I'm sure many people in the industry have. And I remember seeing you on a video say, in relation to addictions, which you're largely known for. And so I'm cutting to the chase here. But I remember you saying that the 12-step plans do not work. They leave people dependent. And that's burnt into my head. And then when I was working with addiction clients, that was always in my head, especially if they said they'd been at AA or Narcotics Anonymous or whatever. And it rings so true. And it's proven itself to be true that it's like they want them dependent over there. But the truth is, they should be saying every day, I am Alex, Jonathan Rowe, whatever, and I am me, not, I am a recovering, well, recovering's a
you're always an addict. You always have a disease.
Negative suggestion was you're a recovering.
Yeah. Because you're an addict for life. You have a disease for the rest of your life. Relapse is part of recovery, and you can't be around normies, which are people that drink. So I took a totally opposite approach. And at one point, my oldest son, he had been in rehab a few times, mostly for alcohol. But then when he was in a sober living, he learned how to shoot up heroin there. So he went back to rehab many times, and I spent over $150,000 on these rehabs. So one of them in Southern California, he was there, and I had written him a check for $30,000. And the director found out about the work I do. So my son wouldn't let me do my addiction work with my hypnosis. My son was just like, nope, my mom is not going to do any hypnosis.
And to be honest, if what's your views on this? Generally speaking, we hear, don't try it on family and friends, people who know you anyway.
I didn't understand.
Therapy, when you're learning, you kind of get told, don't try it on your family and friends because they knew you before you were a therapist.
Yeah. So when I went in the office with the manager of this center, and this center had over 100 people because they housed them in individual apartments with 6 each, because that's the max you're allowed to do. But they had over 100. So this man, Ryan, says, we have a very low success rate. It's only 5 to 7%, and we'd like to improve that. And I had just given them a check for $30,000, as had 100 other families to send their person there. And he said, I understand that you work with addiction with your hypnotherapy. So I went and met with the entire board of this addiction treatment center, and everyone was really on board with it. So then I went and did a session, maybe an hour and a half, with about 20 of the people, of the guests in there. Mm-hmm. And the next day, Ryan brought me in. He said, "What did you do to them? Everybody's talking about it. They're so excited. They feel so good." Well, here's what I did. I just had them go on a timeline into their future. You know, they were relaxed, eyes closed, in a light trance. Go on this timeline into their future for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. And at 1 year in the future, I asked them to look back on that last year and remember how easy it was to just let go of alcohol or drugs. It was easier than you imagined. And notice what you're proud of now. Who are you really now? What do you love about your life? And then I anchor 3 words. It's healthy, strong, and in control. And I say, in this moment in time now, you're so healthy. You have healthy thoughts. Your body is healthy. And then I say, you're strong. Physically, you're strong, but you have strength of character, and you love that about yourself. And then, you know, in control, we talk about that. So anchoring these 3 words, it makes people massively love who they are in that future. And I keep speaking as if that's now, because I say now in this future moment, as you look back, you realize that those were some mistakes you made and they don't matter anymore. You don't have a disease. You don't have to worry about relapsing because alcohol's just not a thing. You don't care about it. So someone who used my recorded program for the alcohol says, I was at a conference. I had only been sober for like a month and a half. I was at a conference sitting at the bar, sipping on club soda. My friend comes up beside me and buys a glass of my favorite whiskey. And then my friend the friend didn't know that he had quit drinking.
All right, okay.
His friend puts it under his nose. And you know, when we smell something, that olfactory sense lights up our brain.
But direct to the unconscious, yeah, yeah.
And what he said, this is really important for everyone to know. He said, when I smelled that whiskey, I knew I was healthy, strong, and in control. We fired the trigger that lit that up.
Excellent.
And then I used to do a lot of national advertising for the alcohol program. And one of the ads I said, if it seems like the only time you need to have a drink is right after you leave an AA meeting, it's not your fault. So then people would call our office and say, oh my God, that's the only time I go and get something to drink, or I have to fight all these cravings right after a meeting. Well, no shit, Sherlock. You're listening to sad stories. Your brain is lighting up with all these stories in your head and emotions and fear that they're talking about. And on and on. So anyway, that was really a good thing. Now I will say that AA makes you relapse. And I believe it firmly. And you know why. Yeah. Because they're hypnotizing you. They don't mean to be, but they are, to fail. But I've had so much success with the addiction program. It is amazing. And some people, they can fly in and do private work with me for 4 days. And then we just work on for about 5 hours each day, and we go through the whole thing. And when they're done, they are solid.
Excellent.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I love. It's just amazing. And it's unfortunate that people keep putting money into rehabs that feed you crappy food and convince you, like the first rehab Sean went to, I was there for one of the meetings. They had an expert speaker who goes around to all the different 12-step groups, and he speaks. First thing he says is, he says, hi, I'm Harold. And everybody says, hi, Harold. He goes, I'm an alcoholic. And he says, and I got to tell you, I haven't had a drink in 20 years, but every day I'm still hoping to make it to midnight. I am white knuckling it every day. And I know. And then, so everybody's all sad and going like, oh, F this. And then he goes on to talk about, when I used to fly on the planes, they had those little bottles of liquor. He says, I could steal so many from the cart. I could get 10 or 12 of those and get just so drunk. It's great. Look what he just did. Glorifying it and having people think, oh man, yeah, getting drunk is so fun. And he's all happy. Beautiful hypnosis. But for the wrong reason. And he went on to continue to tell them all these horrible things and how they have to fight so hard, even after 20 years. Then another place, when Sean was getting ready to leave after his month, the person told the group of them, they said, some of you are leaving in a few days, and I want you to know that in 60 days, only 1 in 12 of you will still be clean and sober.
No.
Yes. Can you believe it? What goes on in rehab should be illegal.
No. So they said only 1 in 12 of you will be clean.
Right. Only 1. Look around. Only 1 of you.
But they're not so everyone in their head is going to be thinking, is it going to be me? That's like the stage hypnotist saying, I've got 12 people on stage and I'm telling the audience now, I know 2 people on stage are likely to end up having to be sent back. I won't point them out right now because I don't want to embarrass them, but don't be surprised if I have to send 2 people back. So it sets up that state of mind of I don't want it to be me, so that they're all more cooperative. But it's totally the other way around, that's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes, that's terrible. And then they are believing they have a disease and all of the other negative things about it. But the stuff that I experienced, because I went to meetings at these different rehabs because I was paying a lot of money for this.
Yeah.
There was one that was science-based. They still weren't getting good results, but they were at least more science-based and no AA or 12-step. So you pay all this money for your loved one, $30,000 to $40,000. They're fed horrible food. They aren't given any kind of mindfulness or, nothing that is going to help them grow or be a better person. Mm-hmm. They're just going to have AA meetings. One of the places drove them all to AA meetings, so they didn't even have to figure out how to have one in their facility.
Oh.
And they don't heal their brain. So in my program, there's supplements that I have you taking to heal your brain so that you do start producing dopamine sooner, and you replace those things that the alcohol or drugs were doing, and repair the dendrites and the using tyrosine to repair the connections in your brain and so much. Yeah. So anyway, whew.
So if any of that strikes a chord, obviously visit Wendy's website, which we'll give you later, and it'll also be below this video when it goes out. So, I mean, yeah, wow. I can't say.
Horrendous.
I think 1 in 12 of you is the only 11 out of 12 of you it's not going to work for. I mean,
yeah. Oh, the horror stories go on and on.
In any other industry or anything, if you went 11 out of 12 people it's not going to work for, you wouldn't stay in business, would you?
Yeah. You'd be shut down by the Consumer Affairs or something. Oh, so back to the big center in Newport Beach that had over 100 people. I did the presentation for the board, and everybody loved it except for one person, because the people who were there who had been struggling were suddenly so positive and so happy, and they're like, wow, that was really good. I feel so good now after one session. So the psychiatrist did not like what I had to offer, and I met with him privately, and before he even met me, he knew, this is a layperson. She doesn't have a bunch of letters after her name. She got a CHT that means like almost nothing. Yeah, so he said, nope, I am not doing that. It has no scientific, foundation, and
it had no financial benefit because they couldn't prescribe drugs for it.
Yeah, so the treatment center is like the revolving door. Even though you're not going back to that same place, you're going to a new one in 6 months or a year, and you're going to keep going to the next one where it's like, oh, yeah, this one sounds great. And then there's brokers. When you look online for a treatment center, the person you're going to be talking to is a broker. So I didn't know that. The first time I'm talking to a man named Darren, he was so nice.
Sorry, Wendy, I've got to ask you. Broker to me in English is another word for like a car broker, a stock broker, like an agent who sells things.
Yeah.
So effectively a salesperson. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So a salesperson.
Yeah, for all these different rehabs.
Okay.
So Darren, because I was calling the number for a rehab, for a specific one. And he was so warm and caring, and I just thought, wow, they're really going to take care of my son. That's great. Oh my gosh. So I take Sean down to San Clemente to this place, and I go in there. I said, I'd really like to meet Darren. And everybody's like, who? What? I said, well, Darren, the person who answered your phone here. And he says, there's no one here by that name. I said, was there a week ago? And they said, no. So he does answer the call. I think it was like Pacific Hills or something. And he answers it with the name of that rehab. But he's a broker that is getting like $5,000 a person or whatever to send these people to these rehabs. And that's how it works.
Well, for flip's sake, this isn't timeshare. This is people's lives we're talking about.
Yes, and people are dying. So to help everybody understand why this works and how it works, there's a lot of sessions in my program, because we're not just getting you to quit drugs or alcohol. We're restoring your integrity, your desire to be honest, to love yourself again, and so that all is truly in the past, to forgive yourself. But one of the clients that he used the recorded program, he drank over a case of beer a day, and he said, everybody that knows me knows I'm just a fat slob drunk. That's all I've been. I'm 45 years old, and my whole adult life, that's all I am. And I did your future timeline, and at 1 year in the future, I'm an athlete. That makes no sense, because I'm not an athlete. And he says, it was really a great feeling because I'm not drinking, but this is so weird that I would think that I'm an athlete. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So the things I implanted in that future for him, along with the other processes we did, got him to start working out. His name's Ken. He is an Ironman athlete. He travels the world doing Ironman competitions. He's been in Kona Ironman, which is the top of the top that you have to qualify to get to Kona. And that's what he's been doing for years. That was like 15 years ago or 12 years ago that he did that. And he's an Ironman athlete. Isn't that bizarre?
On the one hand, it's bizarre. On the other, wow, what a great example of how changing your mindset can alter everything.
Yeah. And so the way that I do it when they're at that 1 year in the future, and I do take them even farther into the future, but at that point, the way that I word it and talk to them, it makes it so irresistible to have that life. Like, I'm suggesting that maybe you've written a book and people love your book, and it's opening minds and, so on. Or maybe you went back to school and you got to finally learn to be a veterinarian or whatever. We're giving them something that they want so bad that they don't want to screw it up. And then also Ken, I think it was Ken, he said, about a month after I quit drinking, I opened my fridge and there is a 6-pack of beer in there. It's been sitting there for a whole month. And he said, that was the strangest thing. I didn't even see it. But I decided I would have a beer. So I poured some in a glass. I took one sip and I thought, nah, I don't need that. It's no struggle. Didn't trigger anything. So he said, nah, and he threw it away. But for me, when I made the program, and when you record a program, you got your headphones on and you're getting hypnotized by your own voice going into them. So I drank wine every day. I still do, but I drank wine every day when I got home from work at 6 o'clock or so. So about 5 days after I was making that program, I opened a cupboard in my kitchen and there was wine bottles in there full of wine. And I thought, what? I totally forgot about that. What the hell? There's wine in there. And I could drink it. And I did a little bit here and there. But it was so weird that I totally forgot that there was wine up there.
Mm-hmm. I've got to ask you, what do you think is more important? Because obviously the target audience for this is hypnotherapists or people wanting to get into it. Do you think it's more important, because with what you just illustrated, the focus was on what your future could be in, say, 12 months' time, as opposed to look what's happened in the past? What do you think is more important, creating the new future or cutting the ties with the past? I know that both need to be in place, but which of the two do you think is the most important?
If we started out with going in the past to go through all these things, the mistakes you've made and the things that you hate yourself for, and the doubts about I don't have what it takes. There's no way I can, get my life back together. I've screwed everything up. If we took them into that past first, we're really igniting all that again, and we're trying to work through it. But I think by taking them in the future first, and I do work on that first, they have something they want, and we've shifted things. Now we can work on forgiving themselves, letting go of that identity of who they thought they were, and and just making sure that that's a thing that's kind of dissolving. Or they can look at those things in the past, but they aren't triggered by them. They're no longer having an emotional experience for it. So I would say go into the future first. And then you need to do self-sabotage work, which doing parts therapy, you can find out what the positive intention is for the drug or alcohol use. Like I say, integrity and learning to love yourself again. But yeah, it's something. And then I do a swish as well. I have them do the swish several times. So when they're, and the part that I add to it is when they've got that final screen and we've done that swish enough times, on that final screen, it gets really bright. It has a wonderful sound. It is so irresistible. You just have to get in it. And I have them jump in it, and they're surrounded by it, and it's getting in every cell in your body. And this is where you live, and this is what you love. Everybody sing Kumbaya now.
Excellent. So you've explained that brilliantly. You really have. And so and because of that, viewers, sorry if you wanted more of that, but that's why you're going to search out Wendi's website. So I'm going to change the subject entirely now. Earlier today, I noticed on your Facebook wall, so I made a comment, and then you sent me through a PDF, which I've only had time to look at the first 2 or 3 pages, but I will be reading it because I've enticed. But you've been away recently, and you found yourself prompted to finish off writing a book. So that's as many prompts as I'm going to say. Please, can you explain to the viewers what the heck I'm talking about? Because I've read the first 2 or 3 pages and I'm like, oh. That was out on my mobile phone and I had to rush back for this. Please explain, because there's been a lot of major changes happen for you over the past. I know that towards the end of last year you had decisions to make health-wise, and you decided not to have an operation.
Yeah, my son died, the one that was an addict, a year and a half ago. Yeah, he overdosed, and it was unfortunate. He had been clean for a while, and I don't know what he was thinking. Sometimes he was going to go back up to Montana, and I don't know, he just maybe was like one more time or something. A lot of addicts do that. They do like one more time.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring that up, but because you have,
it's okay.
Can I ask you the question that some people might have running through their head, and me asking it, they're going to think I'm a complete and utter bastard, okay? But obviously, losing a son is, I can't even put it into words. So I'm not even going to go down that route. I'm not even sure what I want to ask here. I'll come to that. But my observation is this for people watching. I know I've encountered hypnotherapists in the past who go, I've got these tools. They work wonderfully for clients. I wish I could do it for my dad or my sister. And I go, well, don't feel bad, because one of the things we get taught is don't try and hypnotize somebody who knew you before you were a hypnotist, because the belief factor's not there.
I know what the question is. I understand.
How the excuse the language, how the fuck do you handle that, Wendi, when you have these tools and you can help so many people? But I know the reason why one of the reasons you can't with someone so close to you is because they're so close and they won't accept that help. But I mean, you know where I'm coming from.
And I can tell you why. And that was, in one way, it was frustrating that he didn't want my help. And I'll tell you why. But the other part of it is just that I could do that. I could help him. Oh my gosh. So Sean, when he was 6 months old, it was apparent that he was a genius. By the time he was 1 year old, he had a vocabulary of 80 words. He had started walking at 7.5 months. At a year and a half, he had a 400-word vocabulary with sentences and songs. He did math at 2 years old. He grew to be 6'5". He was drop dead gorgeous. He was charismatic. And one time I was doing an addiction training for therapists. He came in and I said, Sean, would you tell them what it's like to be an addict? And he went on for 45 minutes with no preparation. They were riveted. He was brilliant. Now, when you are a genius, you don't want other people who you think are not smart enough to help you, or you think you can solve everything yourself because you have. And he didn't have like a really horrible attitude about it. It's just that he was so superior in his mentality that he thought he was the only one who could fix this. And I think that's what the problem was, is he didn't respect the people in rehab that are telling him all this crap, because he knew this was crap, and he would share it all with me and tell me, you won't believe what they said. So they lost their respect day one. But he thought he was above the law a lot of times because he's just too smart for everybody. And when he was doing heroin, then he had to steal to, get money for heroin, and he went down a really tough path. But he did not respect that there are people out there who could help him. He just knew that he was the only one with the answer. And I think that was the problem. And it's so unfortunate that the work that I do because of him is brilliant, and it's helped millions of people. But yeah, I mean, the hole in my heart is the exact thing that you're struggling to ask me.
Yeah.
Is why couldn't I? But yet I brought him into that addiction training, and these people who are therapists are listening to him, and they're just, wow, because he's telling us what goes on in rehab. And this is an amazing man. And heroin, unfortunately, and fentanyl is taking down a lot of really wonderful, powerful people who have lots of self-control, and they have their life together, but you get fentanyl or whatever you're getting in there and you just don't know. Yeah. It's not fun. I recorded a podcast on, this makes me feel very emotional, but on day 5 after he died. Yeah. I don't know why I did that, but I'd always wondered, what is it like when you have a child that dies? I wonder how, oh boy, oh. And so on day 5, I thought, I'll just do this, and if people want to listen to it, they can. And I just said, this is what it feels like. This is what each day is so far, and it's only 5 days. And it was, woo, it's still hard to think about that. Now, with my hypnosis work, one of the things that I do is when those memories pop into my head, I can put him in a nice light and, wish him well and give him happiness and health. And if he's coming back for another one, that he brings back his gifts. And then I did a thing called
the Temple. Already given you many gifts, Lord Wendi, because from what you've said and what I've observed, your insight into the bullshit that is the 12-step plans and all this, that, the other, that have been able to help so many people have come through him, haven't they?
He has saved the lives of so many people. Oh my gosh, thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, so I did a thing about 3 months after he died. It's a temple of wisdom. And you go into this temple, and it's a sacred place. And this one was for him, and it was made of quartz. And then there was this beautiful crystal table in the middle. And go in there to honor the good things and the relationship and everything about it, that even though it's ended, there's things in there that represent all these memories and the things. Normally you do it by yourself, and it's a really nice process. And he showed up in there, just as real can be. Oh my. And he was talking to me, and it was just amazing, the things he was telling me. Oh my gosh. So after that, you leave the Temple of Wisdom, and you look at it from the outside. You go all around it, and you say, this is where all of these memories in my heart and in my mind, that's where they are. Mm-hmm. I can come back and visit anytime, or I can just look in the windows from the outside, come back here. When people lose a child, a common thing is that they have this horrible, like right here in your solar plexus,
Yeah.
They have this horrible, tight blackness that stays there forever. But that day when I did that temple, it was gone, and it has been gone. And oh my gosh, to have it not rest in your solar plexus anymore, it was just wonderful. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I don't mind you asking about that. Sometimes it's really hard to talk about it. Sometimes I really lose my shit because obvious reasons.
Well, I promise you, I would never have asked it if you hadn't brought it up, but you know, you mentioned it. So let's move away from that, knowing for the viewers at home that I'm not a complete twat. I only asked it because Wendi mentioned it first. Watch the video again, you'll see she mentioned it. All right.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But that is true that he's the reason that I've been doing this work. He is the reason. That's why
you've got a real insight as well that
I would never have. I would never have tried. So those of you who are hypnotherapists out there, you don't have this experience, I hope, but you have the wealth of my experience. And I mean, there's so many materials in the Addiction Freedom Program. There's manuals with all the methods and the marketing and the scripts, and there's...
I cannot encourage you enough.
There's so much, and it's all done for you. You get business cards and postcards. You get letters to the doctors, so you can drop off letters, and they'll send you clients because they're desperate for something.
I hate the phrase, but it is a business in a box. And I know business sounds really... It sounds unemotional, but one thing as therapists, and I speak to a lot of therapists who are not earning, they're struggling to pay the bills. One thing you've got to get over as a therapist is it's okay to be able to pay your mortgage and help people. You don't have to just help people and struggle to pay your bills. Get over that, and then you'll be able to help even more people. Yeah.
And you're doing some work that is proven. You're using my testimonials to give you credibility. And you're doing something that we know works amazingly well, even for people who don't think it's going to work. So you're getting the wealth of 20 years of the addiction work, and you can be confident in doing that work because you're not guessing. You're not wondering, like, what do I do? Is this going to work? Or I know they've got a disease. They're going to relapse because it's part of recovery, and it's genetic. But it gives you the tools to gently help them let go of all of that and show them what does work. And it's a great training. And anyone, you don't really even have to be a hypnotherapist to do it. You need to have some counseling experience of, some kind of therapy. But but anyone could, because they could use my recorded audio sessions, do sessions with your client, but then have them do the recorded part. So, people could do it, like rehab centers could do it. But anyway,
I 100% recommend you look into it if that's a route you want to go down. For one reason alone, anyone, and I've always thought this from the study of anybody who says the 12-step plans are about people being dependent rather than releasing them, and comes up with something that is about giving people freedom and control, isn't that what we're supposed to do as therapists? Give people a sense of control back and freedom. So without a doubt, definitely look into it. So tell us about your book, because you've been writing a book on a cruise, haven't you?
Yeah, well, the crossing the Atlantic in a sailboat was 5 years ago. And every day I was typing in my cabin and writing. I'm so glad I did. So I bought a catamaran that was in Croatia, and I had someone sail it to Las Palmas in Spain, because on Las Palmas every year there's 250 boats that all leave together to end up in St. Lucia.
Okay.
And it's always at the end of November. And this is in the book. Someone told me, oh, it's the easiest thing. In the end of November, you can sail a bathtub across that ocean. So the current is with you and the winds are with you. So you're just sailing downwind with the current. I interviewed some people to be my crew, and I found 3 people. One from Australia, he's my skipper, and then a Dutch couple that had done crossings. So I felt pretty confident. And it was all fun at first and all good. They were getting a little bit annoying at points. And some of it was pretty funny. But there was like, when we were on land, there's an inspector that goes and inspects every boat and requires you to do what he says. So there's a piece of cord called a dynema that holds the sail up at the very top. And it's very strong. It's stronger than steel, even though it looks like string. And the inspector said that dynema is frayed. You need to replace that. So John and Gijs, that's one of the Dutch guys' names, they were to replace it. Go, you can bring the halyard down and do that and put the sail back up, no problem. Well, we're out in the middle of the freaking ocean, and all of a sudden, there wasn't a lot of wind. It was really calm when this happened. All of a sudden, the sail just goes, poof, falls down. Well, the hooky-loo thing up there is still up there at the top of the mast. There's no way to get it down. Right. But the sail's down here. We're on the ocean. I said, what happened? I said, you guys just put the new dynema up there. And they said, oh, no, we brought the new one as a spare in case this one breaks. I said, no, you replaced it when we were on land. So now, imagine this. The boat is on, it's a catamaran. Boat's on an ocean, and it's very calm, but it moves a tiny bit. By the time we hoisted Ellie up to the top of the mast, there's a lot more movement up there, right? And it wasn't a lot, but it was still a tremendous amount of force. She's hanging on with her knees, gripping the mast, getting around the rigging while she's being hoisted up, right? And then she yells down, "It's lovely up here." And I said, "Oh, it must be." And she said, no, it's lovely up here. And I said, yeah, you can probably see for miles. When she got down, she said, I was telling you, it's wobbly up here. I was scared because I couldn't hang on. If she didn't hang on with her thighs, and then she's using her hands to get up there, and they're pulling her up, but if she let go, she would have swung, come back into the rigging, and swung out again, and it probably would have killed her. Because those two assholes did not put the new dynema on. And the inspector told them to. I thought they did. But anyway, the book is about a lot of misadventures and a lot of beautiful things. I mean, Alex, I was on watch in the middle of the night. There was no moon. It was totally dark. And I went up to the front of the boat. And there's no other boats. Like, after day 3, you don't see no other boats. There were dolphins that came and swam at each side of the front of my hull. And there was bioluminescence. I've never seen that before. So the dolphins were making the bioluminescence glow. And I started singing a love song. And I sang this song to them, and they got in formation. 3 on this side and 3 on this side. And this would leap, then these would leap, and these would leap. And I kept singing this love song, and when it was done, they jumped up and went away. I mean, to have experiences like that. Yeah. And then at the end of the book, you will hopefully not be as terrified as I was, but we had storms and squalls for 6 days that would not stop. 15 to 18 foot seas behind us, these waves crashed into the boat, and because they were behind us, the wave would pick the boat up, and then the boat would surf down into the trough, and if one of those sides got caught in the trough, it could flip us over. We were going so fast, because the winds were 45, 50 knots. We were going so fast at times that the alarms were going off in the boat, because you're not supposed to go over 12 knots in this boat, because then they break. We were going 16 knots. We couldn't get the sail reefed, and reefed means you bring it down part way so that you don't go so fast. There was too much wind in the sail, we couldn't get it reefed. So John, the memories. John had to put both diesel engines on full speed, so the boat was now going faster, which took the pressure off the boat, because the wind is behind us, and so if we're going faster, there's less pressure on the sail and the mast and the riggings. We did that for 2 hours, and every time we thought we're done with a squall, for 6 days, 7 days, every time there was another and another, and you'd see this black cloud forming, and you'd see the radar. It didn't fucking end. And so 250 boats coming in to St. Lucia, who should be totally happy because this was really fun. We're like, oh my God. And somebody broke their mast. they had no mast. And others ripped sails and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
And then
you're here, you're alive. Thank God for that. But I mean, that's.
Yeah, you got to read the book. It is.
Nice.
I'm so glad I typed every day. I'm so glad. It's just the little nuances and then the big stuff. And then in the book, I talk about a lot of personal things in my life that just memories, because there's not much to do on a boat. So when you leave Las Palmas, it's so fun. There's a huge battleship that blows the guns or whatever to send you off. And there's all these boats. And then about day 2 or 3, it's like, wow, I'm all alone with 3 people, but I can't get off the boat. I can't change my mind. And then day 5, 6, 7, can't change this if I wanted to now. Ellie's getting pretty annoying. She doesn't like me anymore, and she doesn't like anything. Who doesn't like Wendi? Come on. And then I was talking to Geis I was writing about this in the book one evening, and the others were sleeping. And I said, why doesn't Ellie like me? What's the problem? And he says, well, she does this on almost every sailboat we've gotten on. She just doesn't like women, and she attacks them. And I was like, what? Whew. But anyway, yeah, you'll enjoy reading the book.
You have some bloody adventures, don't you? From what I've seen over the years on the internet, when you've been quite out there, because you don't hide things, you say it as it is.
You noticed.
I mean, you live life to the full.
I have been very brave. And I think I got that bravery from my father. And I talk about him a lot in that book. Because the things he did, he was fearless. He would just decide, I'm going to do this, and he did. Like, he decided, our family was glass blowers. He taught all 5 kids to blow glass, and then we would do this in malls at Christmas, a big booth in the middle of the mall, and actually working on the torch all day long. But anyway, he needed more glass stock because we couldn't keep up. So he goes to Taiwan. He's never been there. He doesn't know anybody there. He doesn't speak the language. He goes there to build a factory to teach people to be glass blowers and to send the stock. They don't know how to blow glass. It's very hard to learn. It is ridiculous. You got molten glass. It's just dripping everywhere. He teaches 20 people to be glass blowers, and they send the stock, and he's buying it for like pennies. Then he goes and opens up a second factory in Taiwan. And this is the kind of guy he is, and just whatever he wanted to do, he's like, okay, I can do that. And I think that really matched with my personality that I was born with, because not all my siblings are that way. But for me, it was like, oh, okay, you want to do something? Oh, just you do it. Yeah. Of course.
Okay, which is great. I'm so glad that you said that. It matched with your personality that you were born with. Because we've just gone over the hour, and these shows are like generally an hour and 15 at tops. We are getting close to the end, unfortunately, because you are just a bloody fount of knowledge, a fount of experience, and highly entertaining with some of your experiences. But I've got to ask you, do you think, well, obviously, the evidence proves it, but you were born, you've identified it yourself, you were born with that type of personality to do the things that other people may be scared of. Yeah. What would you say to people who are perhaps not born with that personality? Because that's been a key thing to your success, without a doubt. You've identified it. People who are trying to strive forward, have you got any advice on how they can compensate for the fact they weren't born that way?
Yeah. Well, when you're saying that, it makes me think of the times when I was really scared to do something. Like I was sharing an office with another hypnotherapist, and we were complaining about how you can't make money in hypnotherapy. And after about an hour of complaining to each other, I grabbed the yellow pages. Remember those? Yeah. And I opened it up, and I just put my finger on there, and I said, okay, I'm going to call that. And it was a radio station. It was a big radio station in Sacramento. So I called them, and I said, hi, I'd like to have a show on your radio station, talk show, because that's how you get talk shows, right?
You didn't ask to be a guest. You wanted a
No,
show.
I just wanted to have a show.
Excellent. All right.
But I was kind of being silly. I was challenging myself to like, no more complaining, do something. So this is for people out there that are afraid to do something. And she says, well, wait a minute, Paul is right here. He's the morning show, talk show host. She hands the phone to Paul, and I thought he was going to tell me how to have a radio show. And he said, well, first, come and be on my show on Tuesday morning. Come at 6 a.m. I said, well, don't we need to rehearse first? No. Because I've never been in a radio studio. So now I took a chance. I did something silly, and now I'm going to be on this huge radio station. It's big. Now, if you are afraid of doing something at this point, you probably are going to change your mind or not show up. And I was tempted the night before to not show up. I was scared. I thought, I'm going to screw this up and I'm going to be stupid and everyone's going to hear me being stupid and whatever. So now you're scared and you think you can't do this. What if you can, but you just haven't given yourself the chance to find out? If you keep holding yourself back, especially with the skills of hypnosis that all of you have, you're going to miss out on some really amazing things. So maybe for you, you would discover what I discovered that morning. I went in at 6 a.m. Oh, the night before, I was in my car and I was really scared and I was driving. I was at a red light and I said, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to cancel. And I thought, no. And they said, I've done this hundreds of times. People love having me on their show. And I've been doing this so long. That woman in the car next to me, she recognizes me. Look. See, yeah, she knows who I am. She's
excellent. Yeah.
And then I'm just driving down the road going, yeah, this was so simple. And any of you can do this, but you got to play with your brain and have fun. So 6 a.m., I was in the studio and I had done this hypnosis that the minute you see the microphone and you say your first word, it's going to be fun and you're going to be brilliant. And I was in there for 3 hours on the air. Every phone line, 5 phone lines were lit up the whole time, taking callers. And I was really I was afraid that people would ask questions that I couldn't answer because I was really, really new at this time. But it was great. So now my appointment book was totally full for 3 months in advance. I started doing workshops because I couldn't handle all the clients, so I could see 10 or 15 people at once. And, but if those of you who are scared, what if you're really good at something and you're not going to find out? Wouldn't you want to kind of look in the mirror and go, hey, maybe I am good at this. Wendi was thrown on a stage with 400 people on TV knowing nothing. But maybe you have that ability and you don't know it. I didn't know that I could do that on that stage. It was just like, magic is happening. And then from there, I got to be on a lot more TV shows and I wasn't so scared. A little scared, but not so scared anymore. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes total sense. I was about to say I've only got 2 questions left. I've only got 2 questions I can fit in time-wise. I'd love to ask you thousands, but
sorry about that. That wasn't the short answer.
So the last one is the one I ask everyone. It's consistent to this show, so I'll leave that till last. The one before that would be, you've massively, going back to the beginning almost, you were the first lady on the internet hypnosis-wise. Well, first that Web Archive noticed it. And you built a massive internet presence. How important to people watching or perhaps just getting into hypnotherapy or whatever would you say is learning to understand how the internet works in this day and age,
Yeah, it was really important back then because there just wasn't, there wasn't the capacity for all these websites that are almost pre-built for you, and that I don't like the technology part of the business. And it does help to learn these things yourself. You don't want to pay someone $100 an hour every time you need a little thing fixed. And most of the software is really pretty easy now to, send out emails or do automations or segmenting and things. Once you learn it, you won't be afraid of it so much anymore. At some point, I wanted to build my own websites so that each one was a specific topic. So I had a book that how to use the software. And the book's like 200 pages on how to use the software to build this website. And I spent 10 hours probably one day going through the book page by page, and okay, then we're going to have to click this. It was really hard then, and I was really determined, because I said that I never want to be poor again. I was poor. It was pitiful. But I decided never going to be poor again. And that was like my mantra, even though it's negative. But yeah, the technology part, it's getting a lot easier, and it's not that challenging anymore. So you do have to learn that to get yourself out there. But for hypnotherapists who need clients, call your local radio talk stations, get on the air. TV shows have sometimes where they need guests, and they need interesting guests, and they love hypnosis because it's weird. Call the newspaper and see if they want to do a story. One time in my office, I called the newspaper and I said, because the stock market was crashing, and I said, I can do hypnosis for all the stress that people are feeling when the market's crashing. They sent a truck over there to do a story on me. So if you guys don't try, the magic may not happen.
Excellent. Well, perfect answer. So that leads me to the question I ask every week. Viewers at home will either be bored of this question, or more likely, based on the fact that everyone's either given, out of the three possible answers to this, the majority of people have given one that matches and the other two are different. That'll make more sense in a minute to Wendi, because this is being recorded before the launch date. This is the 24th of January we record. The official launch date is 26th. So the question I've been asking everyone is this. If somebody knocked on your door now and they were there at the door just with one of your hypnosis books or anyone's hypnosis books, they've read one hypnosis book, that's it. But for some reason they decided they want to become a hypnotherapist. If you could only give them 3 top tips, whether that's about how to go and learn, how to make a business, it doesn't matter. What would your top 3 tips, gut instinct, top 3 tips be to them?
Well, I would want them to get proper training where they are learning from someone who is an expert in it. There's a lot of newbies that are doing hypnosis training and having you buy these classes online. Do it in person, where you're practicing with people, with other students. If it's a class that's for a month, I did one that was for almost a year, and that was great, 4 days a week. You got to practice with people and get your confidence up. The other thing is to realize that for the most part, it's not that difficult to be a hypnotherapist. I was reading scripts to people after I had them close their eyes. I would very quietly take my piece of paper and I read Terrence Watts' scripts because he's brilliant, And I would read that to them and I'd put it down at the end and bring them back up. And they had brilliant results. So that would be the other thing. Don't be afraid if you're not experienced enough to get started. What you do with them, in most cases, what you do if you're working with a script from someone is not going to be harmful, and it's going to be more phenomenal for them than any therapy they've ever had, probably. So the third thing is, I think that was 2, is to get confidence up by using hypnosis on yourself. Don't deny yourself the opportunity to be stronger, happier, better, more focused. Take yourself a year into the future, to that time where, when I was so poor, that's what I did. I took myself into that future, and there were these people smiling, and their eyes were bright, and they were grateful for what I had done for them. And that still lives right here. I mean, I can feel it now, what I saw. And I'd written a book in the future, and people loved that. And you do that, and then you go, wow, okay, that's the part of me I want to really enhance and grow and do something awesome.
Excellent. Wendi, would you please tell everybody who's viewing, I will put a link underneath the video as well so people can click straight on it, but can you please tell them, because I know you're going to be appearing at hypnosis conferences around the world, so pretty much you're going to see Wendi's name pop up anyway, but in the meantime, in reference to the program she spoke about, her books, her audio programs, training programs, you name it. Where do they go and find them?
You just go to Wendi.com, but spell it with an I, Wendi, or if you spell it any other way, you'll probably get porn. I don't know. But also use the code. So when you go to Wendi.com, you'll see all the programs, and they're in a course format now, so they're really nice to use. But use the code Alex, or I can do Jonathan instead. Which do you prefer?
Alex is less typing for people.
Okay. So use the coupon code Alex, and then you'll get 25% off anything you buy.
Oh, wow, viewers. That's cool. Yeah. I didn't know about that. She sprung that on me live. So thank you very much, Wendi. Excellent, viewers. Really, go and use that code. And I definitely recommend the addiction program, because anyone who's about setting people free and giving them a sense of power, personal power and freedom, rather than making them dependent.
Yeah. So I just wanted I want to mention something real quick about getting to meet you, because, you know, you said that you're the bad boy in hypnosis, and as Jonathan Royal, I mean, it was like when you contacted me to be on this show, I was like, oh, him? Come on. Because Jonathan Royal, you know, you're like in people's faces and you've got reputation, and meeting you and talking to you has been such a pleasure. I am so glad I got to know you in this way, who you really are. And it just seems like you've got a really big heart, and I feel so like connected to you now, and really grateful for the opportunity to get to know you.
Thank you, Wendi. I appreciate that. I wasn't going to say, but because it's contextually, the fact is, on this channel where this is, if people go back to the beginning, the first episode, which is out now, well, not out before we recorded this, Robert Temple interviews me, and we just go into the truth behind the rumours and stuff. And the thing is, I got a lot of bad publicity in the early 90s in England. But the thing is, to put it in perspective, in 1994, January 94, when it all happened, I was only 17 years old.
Wow. Wow.
And in England, I was one of the first hypnotists to regularly be on television as a stage hypnotist. Unfortunately, the way things went in England, somebody died after a hypnosis show. It had nothing to do with hypnosis, but the media jumped on it. It wasn't my show.
Oh.
But what happened, the British TV had filmed a load of my shows, and they put out the news item, this person died after the hypnosis show. There's a debate about whether it caused it or not. And then they'd show clips from my show. And people in the industry who knew it wasn't me ended up believing it was my show, and it wasn't. And then after that, I also got attacked because I was doing an adult style show. And yet the irony of it is, the stuff I was actually doing then, with the exception of one routine that I do regret, in the context of I'm older now, but I don't regret the fact that he kept a roof over my head and paid the bills at the time. But I did in 1994 on a TV show in England, apparently wake a lady up thinking she'd just been raped. But the thing is, I didn't. As I admit on my website now, it was a paid actress. I've got the proof there. I would never put anyone in that circumstance. I never did that at live shows. I never would, but I knew how to harness the media, and it did get me work. They say there's no such thing as bad publicity, but sometimes there is. It hangs around.
Yeah, I know.
And then people grow up. I was 17 at the time. I'm 44 now, 45 this year.
Wow.
But thank you for recognising that.
A bad publicity thing. And it is tough sometimes to make lemonade out of lemons. But luckily, it's far in the past for both of us. Well, not the Penn and Teller thing's not that far in the past. But I do kind of appreciate the opportunity to enlighten people to what they do and what I really did. And
it's not Penn and Teller that do that, Lord, just about this, right? They effectively, they're just presenters. The producers have a directive. They get a whole bunch of material. They then give a script to Penn and Teller in that context to read to camera. They probably haven't seen all the stuff. Quite often TV presenters haven't seen the VT that's shown, which is the visual footage that they cut in. And when it's all cut together, it looks like the person who's the presenter's got this opinion.
Yeah.
They may never have even seen the footage.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that. I bet they went in and read some scripts and, okay, our part's done. And then someone else puts it together. But it's unfortunate that there are people in the world that would choose to be actually vicious to, just the mom that's trying to feed her kids and doing good work and whatever. But yeah, thank you for doing that. I end on a high note, and I'm so grateful to have met you this way and just
I will meet you in person at some point. I most definitely will, as I'm sure many people watching this. Go to Hypno Thoughts Live. You will see Wendi or at other conferences. Go to our website, wendi.com. That's WENDI. But the link's there if you're lazy and can't be bothered typing. Click on it. Go get the stuff. Thank you so much, everyone. Tune in next week to Hypnosis Week. Thank you once again, Wendi. You're a star.